So make sure you turn your mics on, folks, when you're speaking. Good evening, everyone. Literally one. Welcome to our regular council meeting for Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize this meeting is taking place on the traditional unceded territory of the Salinas First Nation, and I know we're all thankful to be here tonight in person for the first time in some 18 months. Before we begin, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Ms. Smith.
Yes, Mayor Stone, a late agenda memo was circulated to council, adding a new item under 10 new business. It will be item 10.2, and it's regarding the November 2nd regular council meeting and a recommendation to change it to a special council meeting and public hearing.
Thank you very much. With that addition, if I could have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to Rezoning report, items from the previous closed meeting. The recommendations are CE 2021-120, that Council direct staff to submit the necessary renewal applications for Crown Land Lease 1400950. Number 2, direct staff to inform the province of the town's intention to abandon Crown Lease 1400684. Number 3, Rezoning report on recommendations 1 and 2 immediately. And CE 2021-121, that Council, number 1, approve the 5-year lease renewal agreement with the Ladysmith Senior Centre Society for the property located at 630 2nd Avenue as presented, effective August 1st, 2021, and authorize the Mayor and Corporate Officer to execute the lease renewal. Number 2, direct staff to give notice of the town's intent to enter into a lease agreement with Ladysmith Senior Centre Society as per the community charter. And number 3, rise and report on recommendations 1 and 2 immediately. So that takes us to minutes, item 4.1, page 8 in your agenda package. Minutes of the regular meeting of council held September 21st, 2021, and the recommendation is that council approve the minutes. If there's no errors or omissions, a motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Makai. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Known you all for many years, and I find myself looking for the names. Because it's like Zoom. You got the name there, it's perfect. Moving on to proclamations, this month is Waste Reduction Month, and in Ladysmith, it's Waste Reduction Week on October 18th through 24th is Waste Reduction Week in the town of Ladysmith. Encourage all folks to work on ways to reduce before reusing and recycling, to reduce and reduce waste.
Using the opportunity, we were having a problem before with contamination of our recycling.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have the ambassadors, we saw the report.
Mm-hmm.
What is the status now? Last time we talked, there was a possibility that some of our trucks would be turned away and we would lose revenue.
I'm not aware of that happening, and that would be a question for the CBRD.
Okay,
Thank you. Moving on to bylaws, official community plan and zoning. The first item is 6.1, OCP amendment, rezoning and housing agreement bylaws for 1260 Churchill Place. Recommendation is, having considered section 475 of the Local Government Act, and in particular the matters set out in subsections 2A and B, resolve that A, the Salinas First Nation is the only entity that is appropriate to consult in connection with Official Community Plan Bylaw 2003 number 1488, Amendment Bylaw number 68, 2021 number 2087. B, consultation should be early but need not be ongoing. C, the consultation process described in the staff report to council dated October 5th, 2021 is sufficient in respect to the proposed official community plan amendment. And D, staff be directed to refer bylaw number 2087 to the Salinas First Nation as set out in resolution 1A for consultation in the manner described in the October 5th, 2021 staff report to council. Number 2, give first and second reading to bylaw number 2087. Number 3, consider bylaw number 2087 in conjunction with the town's financial plan, the town's liquid waste management plan, and the Cowichan Valley Regional District Solid Waste Management Plan pursuant to section 4773 of the Local Government Act. Number 4, direct staff to refer bylaw number 2087 to School District 68 pursuant to section 476 of the Local Government Act. Number 5, give first and second reading to the Town of Ladysmith Zoning Bylaw 2014 number 1860, Amendment Bylaw number 44, 2021 number 2088. Number 6, give first, second, and third readings to Housing Agreement Bylaw 2021 number 2089. Number 7, direct that staff following third reading and prior to adoption of bylaw numbers 2087, 2088, and 2089, A, refer bylaw number 2088 to the Ministry of Transportation for approval pursuant to Section 52 of the Transportation Act. B, file the necessary dedication plans with the Land Title and Survey Authority to dedicate areas shown as park and road on the subdivision plan provided as attachment E to the staff report dated October 5th, 2021. And number 8, direct that staff, following adoption of bylaw numbers 2087, 2088, and 2089, A, register the right of first refusal and attachment D to the October 5th staff report to council on the title of the property. B, apply for a preliminary layout approval of the subdivision plan provided as an attachment E to the staff report dated October 5th, 2021. C, list the property for sale once a preliminary layout approval has been issued by the subdivision approving officer. And those are the recommendations. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? Councillor Patterson, and then Johnson, and then Vertanen.
Did have one part on page 20 about below market rates for perpetuity. I think I found the definition for that. But the one where this is supposed to be affordable housing, and we have in here in 2089, page 36, about renting it out. So if we buy the house and turn around and rent it, is it affordable? That means that they would have more money than what they should have. If you buy a house at below market rate and then you turn around and rent it, why did we sell it to them? I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. We should be selling it to somebody that needs the house.
I'm just going to remind you, please use your microphones when you're speaking for the recording. But your question was if the purchase of the property ends up being below market rate as affordable housing, if they turn around and rent it at market rate, you're getting a benefit that would be not in line with the goal of affordable housing. And again, assumptions would be that the rental rate should be fixed as well, but I would have to refer to staff. I know the director isn't here today, but we do have, who do we have on the line again? Ms. Hovey? Hopefully she could hear the question. Ms. Hovey?
Hi, thank you. Yes, through you, Chair. Can you hear me as well?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. So yes, the agreement would require that if the unit was to be rented out, it would have to be at a below market rate as well. And the town would have to give authorization for that rental to occur. I think it's intended to capture, unusual situations. For example, if someone had to move away for a period of time, something along those lines.
Thank you. So the market rate there would be a discounted market rate for the rental if rental were to be considered.
That's correct.
Just to follow, and again, I could have missed that, but I don't see anything about an affordable rental rate for people that are going to rent it from the purchaser, or a ceiling on the rental rate.
Ms. Hovey?
So I'll direct your attention to, I think, page 36, where you were looking as well, under 20 Part A, and it says towards the end of that clause, if any, the affordable housing unit may be rented at an affordable rate for a period of no shorter than 6 months. So that prevents anything like an Airbnb, and as well locks in that affordable rate, which is defined in the agreement as well.
Thank you. And I was going to say, because it's capitalized, affordable rate would be defined in the paperwork.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go to our next speaker is Councillor Johnson, then Vertanen, and then follow-up questions are welcome. Go ahead, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I found this report very confusing, to be honest with you. I have a whole pile of questions. but let's look at page 19, bylaw 2088. It says that approximately 27 multifamily units could be built on the site. But we also said there was going to be some single homes there. And the other line here that brought my attention was, however, additional site restrictions may limit the number of multifamily units that are actually built. So how many were you looking at?
I am pretty sure you just read it out, but I'd put that through to staff.
Well, it said it could be less than 27. but
Well,
it
you
doesn't
don't know
mention
until a
family.
design's put forward.
And
We're
it
putting
doesn't-
forward, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, but
We're-
doesn't also
Councillor
say-
Johnson, please, just ask, answer, and then you can have a reply. It's up to, when we do zoning, we don't specify the design of a building. That would be what's able to be built on the site, but I would put it through to Mr. Boma or somebody from staff that might be able to clarify what that means.
Yeah, through the mayor, is there a button? Thank you. Through the mayor. The site has a number of geotechnical restrictions, as well as just the configuration of the buildings is not determined yet. That would be up to the developer to sort out what kind of, whether it's townhouses or whatever, and the orientation of the buildings and everything can dictate how many units yield from the site.
Thank you. Follow up?
Well, wasn't there not also going to be single-family dwelling units on the site?
Mr. Boma?
Yeah, on the westerly side of the site, there will be, it's the R1C zone, I believe. There's
Yep.
10 lots on the western side of the road.
So what we're talking about is 10 plus potentially 27,
Yes.
which means potentially 80 more cars.
Based on your formula that you've created, sure.
What, 2 cars a household?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Virtanen?
Follow-up question later.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, because this will go to a public hearing, right? So, but overall, I'm really excited about this. I hope we don't get too caught in the weeds on the affordable unit, but I do have a question on that. And again, I don't want to get in details. Why one? Because under the financial implications, one doesn't seem to really affect too much the price. Could we not do 2? Or actually, can I back that up? Just to be clear, we're talking about 1 unit in the 27 unit parcel, are we? So I guess my question would be, could we go higher if one wasn't really affecting our sale price too much? I'm really excited to finally see some rubber hit the road, and I hope people don't get caught up on, I know affordable housing is a buzzword, but if you go by the numbers on what they would have to, their household income to buy this place, almost, that's, what is it, 10% above. So I mean, the majority of Ladysmith residents could actually apply for this. So I'm really excited about it, especially to go to public hearings. So, but could we do more than 1?
Through to staff, maybe Ms. Hovey? That would be your
Yeah, Councillor or Mayor Stone, I don't know exactly how that would impact the business plan for the proposal. However, in theory, you could certainly do more than 1. There's no legal restriction on the number of affordable units you could apply.
Thank you. And I've got a speakers list. I have you on round 2. I also already have you on round 2. Councillors Patterson and, I put Virtanen down there. I meant Johnson. I think if we want to calculate out how that would impact it, and also understanding that the more encumbrances on a property, the longer it may stay on the market, that we would be better to refer the package back to staff for analysis on the impacts of more affordable housing units, recognizing that this was brought forward based on previous council direction. Okay, I'm just making sure I keep my speakers lists in order. Next, do you have a follow-up at this point, Councillor Vertana? Okay, Councillor Stevens, then Makai on the first round.
Thank you. So yeah, I like Councillor Vatan. I don't want to get too far into the details because the report is loaded with them, and it certainly makes I was able to get my head around everything because of the level of detail. I really feel that I'm really excited by this. I think it's the 3 years in, it's really the first big project that we've put our stamp on. We've got half of this parcel as park. We've got 30 up to 36. I'll call them lower cost units of housing, and we've got this 1 unit of housing that's kind of a beta, and I see it as something, a toehold that in the future, something we can emulate. Certainly this housing agreement is so rock solid and so detailed that I think it would transfer over, and we can work any bugs out with this. I don't want to delay the process, and I hear what the mayor says about maybe putting an encumbrance that would slow down the sale, so strike that balance, but if it was something to entertain, I wouldn't be against it too if it wouldn't slow the process down too much. The only specific question I had was on page 40, section 30, and I think it's a good catch-all clause that's in there. It's just around that the agreement may be modified or amended at any time, and I wonder, can we or do we need to maybe make that a little less open-ended? Would that allow a future council to do a complete about face and sell the unit or put it at market rate or anything like that? Or is that just a sort of standard legalese phrase that gets inserted for?
My thinking reading that would be that you shouldn't fetter with council's decision-making power now or in the future, and the council of the future could modify the agreement. When councils of the day make decisions, it's understood, I think, that future councils can modify those agreements as markets or conditions dictate, but if staff has a different perspective on the thought of that clause in attachment C, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that you captured that well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But otherwise, very excited by this, and thanks staff for all the detail and work.
Thank you. Next on my speakers list is Councillor Makai.
Thank you. I would like to speak in favor of the motion and all the details that are listed here for all the parts to it. I found reading the report to be terrific, actually, and I found I was much clearer on understanding the whole concept behind the affordable unit, and including all the details on the sort of legalities behind it was good backup for me as well. One question I had with regard to the single family dwellings that are currently zoned, I believe it's R1C, are basements or in-law suites or basement suites allowed, legal suites allowed in that zoning?
Through to staff. Ms. Hovey?
Through the chair, was that question directed to me?
Yes.
No, basement suites are not permitted in the R1C zone.
Okay, can I?
Yeah, follow
up. And I just would support that also because I think there's going to be a fair number of people living in that little small area, so I'm happy to see that basement suites would not be part of that development. My last piece on it was just basically, again, to speak in favor of it. I like the idea that there's so much park behind it, and I would kind of like to keep it at the 1 unit for affordable housing at this point. My feeling on it is that we're kind of delayed on selling this property, and it would be great to get it rolling, and I wouldn't want anything to be standing further in the way of it. Plus, I think it's kind of us dipping our toe into this pool of experience, and perhaps starting with 1 unit instead of 2 or 3 or 4 is wise. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. And I haven't spoken on this yet. I will speak in support of the package that's been brought forward by staff. Based on the understanding of the lot, the challenges that have been already discussed with the topography, and the mirroring of other like uses in the neighborhood. So across the creek, you have a multifamily complex. Over the back fence of the 10 or 11 single-family units, you have similarly sized single-family lots with modest homes on them that are more affordable. And the connectivity through from Brown Drive Park to Forest Field makes it an exciting opportunity for families and seniors that fit the demographic and the target market for the housing potential that is there. And recognizing that a lot has changed since we actually started discussing this property, keeping in mind also that there will be the removal and the sort of clearing of the existing home on the property, which will add to the expenses. I am supportive of the affordable housing lot, but I think that going back and sending bylaws that are fully prepared back for further consideration would delay it. And then on top of the other cost concerns around removal of the existing house, et cetera, may put too many encumbrances on moving the property along and making that housing stock available in that neighborhood. So I would support the package that has been presented to council. Second round, I have councillors Patterson and then Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine was more of a comment. I think it's very appropriate use of the site. I'm hoping that over time we can do something with trails in the park area and along Rocky Creek, which runs at the back of it. I would hope, while I can envision whomever develops it will probably, it's not view property, and they're not large lots, so I don't see overly expensive homes or townhome condos being built in there. So I'm in favor of the one affordable housing, and I think what will probably be built there will be more middle of the road, and which more people will be able to find affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I basically am in favor of the project, but it's clarification I'm looking for. On page 20, the sale of affordable housing, it said that the person has to have assets less than $65,000 with adjustments for inflation and their income from all sources. And they must be no higher than 10% above the median household income per Ladysmith. If we're talking about affordable housing, why are we looking at 10% above rather than 10% below?
I'll put that through to staff, but it says maybe no more than. Of course, that's a ceiling, not a floor. And I believe that there's some adjudication into if there's multiple applicants for the housing opportunity, but I would put that through to Ms. Hovey or staff for clarification.
Mayor Stone, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to why that 10% was selected above the median income, except that they need to ensure that someone would be able to get a mortgage and pay the cost of the home, which is still going to be a lot of money for a low-income family.
Thank you. And just to clarify, not an individual income, but it would be a household income of no greater, in today's dollars, of $74,000, which is by no means absolutely super modest, but relative to the
footnote at the bottom.
Read the note on the number that you were speaking to. So 67,000 plus 10% equals 74,441 in today's dollars. Understanding that it may be a dual income family, it may be a single income family, but they also do have to be able to still pay for the home. And with today's construction costs, even a more modest priced home will require an income level that can support a mortgage, even with the affordability keyed in on that lot. Follow up?
It's not a follow-up, it would be a third question by me. On page 22, financial implications, it says the proposed bylaws of the PLA will allow the town to put the property on the market and recover some of the land purchase costs. What are our land purchase costs, and how much would we recover what?
Well, it will depend on the sale price.
Less than 30% of,
No. Well, you can't specify until the house is sold, so you can't speculate on what the price would sell for. I would argue that it's probably much higher now than it was a year ago.
what I'm looking at is the site. Is it gonna bring us back the amount of money we paid for it in the first place?
I'm not sure until we get this part of it done, we can get an evaluation or an expected sale price, but I don't know if we can put that through to staff if they've got any information that might enlighten
Best
Councillor
guess would be
Johnson.
appreciated.
Yeah, Director Balababa did do a, what would it be, like a, yeah, performa and an analysis on what the property will yield and somewhat of the market rates. By his own admission, he's no expert in this field. I reviewed it, we juggled the numbers around a little bit, and we do expect to make back our money.
To be made whole.
Yeah.
Thank you. And to be clear, from my perspective, when the property was purchased as an emergency egress for the Rocky Creek washout, we understood that there may be some costs held by the town and that was a cost that we had to bear. Of course, market conditions since then have dictated that we may be able to get full cost recovery, and that would be excellent. Any further discussion? The package has been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Hovey, for your participation via speakerphone. Moving on then to item 7.1, Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee, and I'll put that over to who's the committee chair? Or the representative, Councillor Patterson. If you would like to read the recommendation. Oh, it's just minutes. Do you want me to I can do that for you. That the council received for information the minutes from the September 15th, 2021 meeting of Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Johnson. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Moving on, 7.2, Committee of the Whole recommendations, September 28th. Councillor Makai.
Thank you. So, from the committee of the whole, the recommendations are as follows. Recommendation number 1, that council direct staff to amend waterworks regulation bylaw 1999, number 1298, to exclude 1, a single-family dwelling with a rate structure based on 1.5 times the single-family dwelling charge, and allowing an initial consumption of 37.5 cubic meters
seconded by Councillor Patterson. I just have one question. What was the rationale behind pushing the council start time to 6:30 from 7? I didn't get an opportunity to watch the discussion.
Mayor Stone, it was just a suggestion.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right.
Just looking at neighboring communities and start times around us.
okay,
Not a, no, thank you.
okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson and then Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. Again, what you were just referring to is the start time at 6:30. The meetings are public to allow the public to have a chance to attend. With many working class people in our community who don't get home until 5 o'clock, a 6:30 start is very, in my opinion, very inconvenient for them. I think that we are doing a disservice to the general public if we want the public to attend, if we have the meeting starting at 6:30. I have another question, and that is going under 1B. It said increase the rate to $3.17.01 per cubic meter. I would like to know what that's up from. I would know how
Believe
big
that
that's an increase.
that was in the report, Councillor Johnson?
I wasn't at that meeting like
Oh,
yourself.
you didn't read the report.
I didn't have a copy of my agenda package.
Oh, okay. Ms. McCarrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Finance Officer will be back shortly, but I believe that is a new rate. That's a new step.
But how much higher is it? Is it
I believe
5%?
it's a new rate.
Okay.
It's above any rate that we've had in the past
no,
for
that's-
extremely high usage. So basically what we're saying, that what he's saying though is that the old rate would have applied to that higher consumption. So I don't, now that Ms. Anderson is back, we'll put her on the hot seat. Welcome back. Answer the question you weren't here for.
I just want to know the percentage increase.
It was a 30% increase
How
over the
much?
last one. It was
Yeah.
the step, so we were looking at what the last step was, and then we just added a 30% increase.
Be a
to the last
30%
one.
increase.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's all I want to know. Thank
For,
you.
and essentially to dissuade extremely high usage.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Oh, sorry, yes, Councillor Stevens, you were on my list. Thanks for the reminder.
Thank you for remembering. An inquiry about the second motion from Cal. With a 6:30 start time, would we be looking on evenings when there was a closed session, we'd be looking at a 6 o'clock start for the close, or would we start or earlier? So, okay, that's just for the general discussion. The other one is just to reiterate a point I made on the third motion, that when staff do these changes and tweaks to the zoning bylaws, that they keep in mind small options. I just think that there's probably, if we're looking to incentivize single-story coach houses, if we can have as small as the building code allows houses, there'd be a lot of places they potentially could be fit in, and it keeps the cost down. You know, under $150,000 to construct, I think would help be true mortgage helpers for people who need help with mortgages, as opposed to getting over into the $230,000, $260,000 rate for building a carriage house. So, thank you.
Thank you. So as tiny as we can get without being on wheels.
Yeah.
Still complying with building code. Thank you. Councillor, so those were more statements than questions. You didn't need an answer of any of those. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Vertanen.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to talk about the 6:30 start time, for those who weren't at the meeting, the suggestion was actually 6 o'clock, because in the staff report, they found that there was a negligible effect on community members taking part, but it did get brought up about 6 o'clock might be too early for working council members, and that, so we kind of hit 6:30 as a middle ground.
And yeah, I'll save my comments till, well, I haven't had any comments because Councillor Johnson's, well, you go next, Councillor Johnson. I did speak right at the opening, so go ahead.
I was just going to say I'd like to have section 2C pulled from the main motion and voted separately.
Thank you. Or you could propose an amendment that might be more constructive than just trying to vote against something. he might have my support on that. So if I could speak to it, we can
Sure.
we can either sever the motion and vote on them separately, but that's well, I guess we could just pull number 2, section 2.3. But I will speak that there have been instances recently where I wouldn't have been able to make, if we had a closed session before a 6:30 start, that I would not be able to attend due to work commitments. So it's just can be challenging. It's not the rule, but it is the exception. But if I have a work exception and I'm at work till 6 o'clock, and we have a closed session starting at 6 o'clock, it'd be difficult to make it on time. And being that I chair the meetings, that might become a challenge. Although the deputy mayor can of course do that work. I would hate to miss potentially important discussions at a earlier meeting. Again, exception, not the rule, just thinking of, there have been times where that would be challenging. So do I have any speakers that I missed on the package of motions that's been moved and seconded? I will pull that, and then if you want to propose an amendment, that I'll take the amendment at that time. So we'll be voting on all of the recommendations that have been moved and seconded other than section 2.3, which is the regular meeting start time. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Councillor Johnson, did you want to propose an amendment, or did you want to? I guess either way, if it's defeated, then it stays the same as it is now, or if it's amended, the recommendation basically would be to stick with it, but I'll turn it over to you.
For simplicity, I would think we bring the motion. No, I'd like to make the motion that we keep the start time at 7 p.m. As a way of giving more opportunity for our residents to attend the public meetings.
Ms. Smith?
Mayor, so a subsequent motion is not required because you've removed it. So you've moved and you've passed everything, so the time will remain the same.
And that motion has been moved and seconded, so it would have to be defeated. So there's no point in amending a motion to go back to what our existing policy is. So it's up to council. If council hears the disagreement, but on the same path as Councillor Johnson and Mayor Stone, then defeat the motion. If not, support the motion, and we'll do our best to make it work. I'll call the question on number 3.
What is the motion again?
6:30 p.m. start time. Everything else has been voted on, so we're just voting on the start time. So I'll call the question. If you support it, raise your hand. All those in favor? And opposed? Councillor Patterson in favor. Motion is defeated. So we're sticking to 7 o'clock. Thank you for that. Moving on to reports then. Councillor Makai, Chair Makai, thank you for your report. And thank you for the work. I'm sorry I couldn't be there that evening. It's been a crazy 3 weeks for me. Moving on to reports, item 8.1, Uplands remediation proceeding to certificate of compliance. And the recommendation is that council direct staff to prepare an amendment to the 2021 to 2025 financial plan to increase waterfront remediation phase 1 budget by $87,920, with the funds to come from prior year's surplus in order to accelerate the project and reduce overall project costs related to the provincial certificate of compliance. Move Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Stevens. Any discussion? Councillor Stevens.
Not a question so much as just saying this is very exciting news, that the process is moving ahead, that staff's been able to come up with a way to squeeze some value out of the work ahead, and I'm really looking forward to Golder's report coming in a month or 6 weeks to us.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Moving on to item 8.2, encroachment agreement for 32 High Street, the Temperance Hotel. Recommendation is that council authorize the mayor and corporate officer to sign an encroachment agreement between the town of Ladysmith and the property owner of 32 High Street to allow for the encroachment of the existing building and ramp into the road rights of way of High Street and First Avenue. Moved by Councillor Vertanen, seconded by Councillor Stevens. Discussion. Councillors Patterson and then Johnson.
I have a question and a comment. Is there a cost to the new owners of having this done?
Through to staff. Ms. Hovey?
Through you, Mayor Stone. The only cost to the property owner is to ensure they have the correct insurance that's required by the town.
So there's no application fee or et cetera for an encroachment agreement?
No.
Okay, and,
Go ahead, follow up.
well, just a comment. I'm wondering why, shouldn't this have been caught by a realtor or maybe even the town? I'm not too sure the process of going about buying an old hotel building, but should this not have been flagged for these people?
I'd have to put that through to staff. Ms. Hovey?
Through the chair, on many of the properties in the older parts of Ladysmith, there are not existing surveys on file of the location of the buildings on the property. So it's very common for us to require a survey when a building permit comes in to revitalize an old building like this. And that's the only way to really catch this type of situation.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Moving right along, Stocking Lake meter valve construction project budget. Sounds just like a bunch of words strung together, but I guess it makes sense. Meter valve construction project budget. It all makes sense. Recommendation is that council increase the budget for the Stocking Lake meter valve construction project by $44,000 with funds to come from the water reserve. And number 2, amend the 2021 to 2025 financial plan accordingly. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Item 8.4, don't go anywhere. Stocking Lake Dam remediation selection. Recommendation is that council select option 2 as the preferred option outlined in the Stocking Lake remediation conceptual design report dated August 21st, 2021, as prepared by Acora. Number 2, direct staff to instruct Acora to complete the preliminary design of option 2 as outlined in the scope of work for the project. And number 3, instruct staff to investigate funding opportunities that may be available to facilitate the next phase of the project, design and construction. And on that note, I will recommend DMAF. There's a program, federal government program for dams and lakes and rivers and stuff that could threaten homes and property. But those are the motions. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Stevens. Discussion. Councillor Patterson, Stevens, and Johnson.
Is there, and again, I could have missed it, participation by the CVRD?
Yep, 50%, I believe.
Okay.
Mr. Mola, is that correct?
That's correct. They're a part owner and they bring 50% to the table.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. So just a sort of technical question. So it notes in the report that lowering the intake would get us 100,000 extra cubic meters of live storage, and then a 0.6 meter raise would get us 150,000 more of live storage. So are we netting 250,000 more or 150,000 more? It was a little bit ambiguous.
I'm just going to reflect that question over to Mr. Boma because you were looking at me like I might know and I do not.
Through the chair.
Mr. Boma.
Yeah, through the mayor, correct. Only with option 2 would you get 250,000 cubic meters of extra storage. The other options would allow for 150,000.
Thank you. Follow up?
Please. And then I'm calling it option, excuse me, 2B. I've got mask face. I assume we are looking, when we're looking at option 2, we're looking at option 2 with the 0.6 meter raise. We're not looking at, because there's 2 sort of price brackets there, but for our cost, it's equal shared cost, so 75 to 100 and something $1,000 would get us all that extra storage, right? Am I correct? We're not talking about 2B with a lower, 2 with a lower dam. We're talking 2 with the 0.6 meter rise. Is that correct?
Mr. Boma.
So staff are very eager to get that extra 0.6 meters, but until we proceed to a more detailed design, we don't know what is exactly involved in doing that. There's some environmental impact by raising the lake and things like that.
Okay. So if we can, we will.
Yes.
It's our
Okay.
hope.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Two quick questions. Number one, these numbers that are quoted, is this pre-grant or post-grant?
Mr. Boma?
Through the mayor, this is the total cost.
No grants.
Yeah, no grant. It wouldn't, the cost wouldn't change whether you have a grant or not. The grant would apply funds to the total cost.
Okay, but I'm looking at what we're gonna be in the pocket. So if I hear you correctly, if we go with option 2, the cost would be between 1.5 million and 2.1 million, 50% split by the CBRD, and potentially grant
Grant
money
funded.
will reduce that. Is that correct?
Yep.
Through the mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Second question I have is, I've been up there quite a long time ago, and it says downstream. And I'm looking at the dam from my mind's memory. Where's downstream?
Where the leak leaks through the dam? No. The stream is that muddy part we walk through when we're going up to the dam where there's not supposed to be water, but Mr. Boma, maybe to clarify.
Yeah, so through the mayor, I suppose if you were to walk up our trail or drive up there and park, you would be looking upstream. If you were to stand on the dam and turn away from the lake, you would be looking downstream.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I'm confusing
I
myself.
think you said it right before you corrected yourself, when you turn away from the leak.
Okay. But that's what's throwing me the curve.
Okay.
Is that if I look downstream, we're in a downhill race. So we're going to put another dam in there, and that will flood that differential space and have more environmental impact? And will it be, the new dam will be built to the same height as the existing dam, or could it be higher? And if it could be higher, could we not have more water storage?
That, Mr. Boma.
No, more than half a meter.
Well, then you get into inundation studies and stuff.
Oh.
It's a big job.
Okay, through the mayor, there's quite a bit to unpack there. Option 2 does have a slightly bigger environmental footprint, but if you can imagine, this thing would be constructed right at the toe of the existing dam, not so far downstream that you're removing a lot of forested area. Most of the area that would be impacted is already disturbed by the existing dam and previous construction.
Okay, forgive me for being stupid. This is the existing dam, and we're gonna be building another dam further down, because this is the slope.
Yep.
So therefore, it would be down here, but it would have to be built up to this height.
That's right.
Okay. And then with that one here, we can put a new outlet lower than what the existing one is down here.
Yes.
And we can build a slightly higher, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. One last comment, if I may.
Please go ahead.
We're eventually looking at double piping the water from Holland Lake and Stocking Lake. Are we, on a long-term basis, looking at penstock power generations in our pipelines to accommodate the opportunity to get power out of this water that's passing by us?
Through the mayor, we are looking at those opportunities.
Okay. And what's the likelihood?
Well, if you harken back, I think 2012, 13, that was actually in the project listing, but it became secondary compared to some of the other larger things. But I know that they've continued to look at power generation to even just to power our instruments and things that are up there, or, you know, more substantial power generation. But Mr. Boma, I don't know how certain you can be about that, but.
Yeah, through the mayor, it's not a subject we've looked into with a lot of detail. A power generator like that can kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, because it can reduce pressure and generate power, which is something we're looking to do on our supply mains. But you have to solve, what do you do with that power? You know, running lines to some kind of grid can be expensive, or do you have a use for it at your dam? And opportunities like that, so.
No, I was kidding. That's why I had my microphone on. There's so much head pressure up at the dams, though, that there's more than enough pressure to power those. This is a real side discussion, and we can discuss in more detail in the future. But Having gone around this horn a couple times with multiple directors, and Ryan's going to be our third one that I've talked to about this, I thought the same thing. Let's get whereas maximum pressure, but they actually have a need to reduce the pressure up at the higher levels, and then you can capture more pressure again further down potentially as well. Yep, possibly. All right, any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Boma. Item 8.5, request for noise bylaw exemption 107 Rolly Rose Drive. And the recommendation is that council grant Westmark Construction an exemption to the Town of Ladysmith noise suppression bylaw number 1478 to permit construction noise at 107 Rolly Rose Drive until 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday, beginning October 11th, 2021. That's an error in the agenda. So beginning October 11th until April 5th, 2022, and direct staff to, number 2, direct staff to ensure that neighboring residents receive written notification. And I'll put myself on the list, but I'll start with council. Is that moving?
No.
Nope. Questions? Councillor Stevens and then Patterson, and then Makai.
I'm comfortable to move if there's a seconder, or would we rather discuss?
No, we'll discuss first.
Okay, thank you. So I'm, you know, not a flag in the wind here. Last time they requested a noise exemption, I wasn't super keen on it and did vote against it. I'm more comfortable this time because I traveled to the site over the last couple of days. They appear to be very close, if not at lockup. And the way I figure it, the noisy siding work they're going to be doing during the light hours at night, they'll move inside. They'll be behind doors and windows and be doing softer, quieter painting, drywalling types of things. And I think it's manageable. I would maybe put a cautionary note to the applicant that don't come back in April and ask for another one, but I think at this point I'm comfortable with this compromise 7 as opposed to 8 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did grant them extension earlier. I would have thought that building a complex this big and others that they've done in other communities, that they would have the knowledge of what it takes as far as manpower and length of time. Maybe not to the very last minute, but I would think that they would know a bit more. And I'm not in favor of it. We had an amazing summer. We had no rain whatsoever. So the opportunity of getting ahead, I think, would be there. So we've done it once. I think that they can, it's their project, they can learn to live with it, and I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you. Councillor Makai.
I appreciate Councillor Patterson's comments, because I kind of was feeling much the same way. I especially wasn't in favor of the last one, which was to 8 o'clock at night with school starting and such. I thought that was a bad idea. So this is to 7, a little bit better. I do appreciate that it would perhaps be indoors. I kind of am inclined to cut anyone a little bit of slack right now with regard to employees. I think COVID continues to have an impact on all aspects of our community and society, and I think that we can't assume that things are just an average construction project. I, for one, am just glad that the construction project carried on and didn't stop, because I think that was a possibility as well. So cheers to them for carrying on. So I'm kind of inclined to cut a bit of slack with regard to perhaps they're off schedule a bit. Who knows? I might be reading into it, but it's not impossible that would be the case. My question was around stat holidays. There's a number of stat holidays between now and the March date where it would be resuming, where the thing would be ending. I'm wondering, is it fair to assume that although they're going to be working Saturdays, but would it be fair to assume that stat holidays would be taken off? Does anyone know that?
I'd have to put that through to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Our bylaw doesn't disallow them from working on stats. It only disallows them from working on Sundays.
So they would be allowed to work a stat?
That's correct.
They're already doing it. Yeah, that's right. I just think that's unfortunate. Only because I think if people in the neighborhood are tolerating 6 days a week till 7 o'clock at night, if by chance it is disruptive, then it would be nice if they could rely on the stat holidays, at least have 2 days. But if that's not the way it's done, that's not the way it's done, so.
Thank you.
I'm undecided.
I'm going to speak to this before we get too far down the garden path, but we have to ask ourselves, is it better to extend construction for days or weeks for the neighborhood, or to extend it by an hour each day? So that goes to the same logic I spoke to, and I did get one email that a person was upset, and I just had to explain that it was more in consideration of the neighbors. Do you want this going on into May, or do you want it done by the end of March and have an extra hour each day? And it may be 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but what I heard was they wanted this project finished and the neighborhood to go back to normal. So is 1 hour a day for 130 construction days when people are in full flight, in other words, more efficient when they're working, better? Or is it better to extend the construction timeline by days, weeks, or maybe more than a month? By not accommodating it. So I have absolute respect for folks who don't want to have construction noise in the neighborhood. Is it better to have it 1 hour each day longer, or a number of days or weeks? So I guess that's the question that council has to ask itself. I did see a second hand up, but I think I had Councillor Johnson and then Virtanen, and then I'll go to second round speakers.
The only person who's going to get an advantage out of this is the contractor, and he's getting this at the inconvenience of the residents of the area. I spoke to a few of the residents in the area, and times it's quiet, times it's noisy, but they were looking forward to being able to use their backyard and that stuff, and that's why they were a bit upset about the extension before. So I don't see why the residents should pay the price if the contractor can't do his job. So I'll be voting against the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So rather than 1 hour in the dark in the evening for their backyards, you'd rather maybe a month in the spring?
I'm listening to the people.
Okay. Councillor Virtanen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, with all due respect to residents, but every one of our homes, when it was built, it inconvenienced other people with noise. I actually only see them spend a ton of time on this. They're asking for this because they need it. Staff is recommending it. I trust staff's idea on this, and I do agree with the mayor. It's, do we want to go a month later, or do we want to go an hour each night? So I'll be supporting it.
Next I have Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. So just a question further to Councillor Makai's comments. Is it possible, notwithstanding the bylaw on the books, is it possible for the purposes of this noise exemption that we add or exclude stats? Or is that?
That would be modifying our bylaw. I don't know if we can
So
do that.
that's
but
a no-go.
Stats are expensive for the contractor anyways.
Through the mayor, so we could eliminate it so that they didn't get the extra hour on the stat. But you would have to amend the bylaw to change
whole
them.
day.
Exactly.
Do the whole day. Okay. That's, I put that out as maybe a possible amendment if there's any motion for that. You know, another point that I think needs to be remembered, and you can say, oh, it's only a month or two, 140 days, 150 days, but people are clamoring for these rentals. And so the sooner it comes online, I think the pluses far outweigh the minuses. If people want to have a good summer, quiet in their backyards, the best way to do it is wind this up in April. It brings this desperately needed rental stock online sooner. I do know supply chain and labor market is a mess that I cheers anyone who's wading their way through it. So I'm happy to do this. If there was a mood to add take an hour off of the stat holidays, and we can do that within the bylaw, I'm happy to support that too. Otherwise, I'm content with what we've got in front of us. Thanks.
To staff, just to, if council felt the need to accommodate that lack of extension on statutory holidays, would it just add to number 1 an amendment that said excluding statutory holidays? So if you would wish to propose that amendment, Councillor Stevens, I think now would be the time to do it.
I would be happy to.
Okay, so number 1 would be amended by adding at the end excluding statutory holidays.
Mayor Stone, there's no motion on the floor.
Oh, okay.
So we can
Well,
just add that as the
okay,
motion.
we'll wait till it gets moved and seconded.
Then should I just move the
Package with that amendment.
with that
addition.
that addition to number 1?
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Makai. Did I miss anyone on my speakers list? Okay, no further, oh, Councillor Patterson?
sorry.
Oh, sorry, you threw your glasses up.
I know I'm not used to not wearing them all, like you something.
All right, I might need them. I can't see anything over here. I'm going blind. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Patterson opposed, the motion carries. Moving on to new business item numero uno, number 1 for those. Oh, bylaw status sheets there for your review. No action there, so I was just burning right along. I'm just so excited to be in the room with everybody with my mask on. My ears hurt, my face is all sweaty, but you can't see it.
Lone Ranger.
Just backwards. Moving on to new business item 10.1, appointment to the Board of Education, School District 68 Long Range Facilities Planning Advisory Committee, and the recommendation is that council appoint 1 council member to serve as liaison to the Board of Education of School District 68 Long Range Facilities Planning Advisory Committee. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Jacobson isn't here tonight, and I know in discussions we've had about school facilities, etc. in town, it's something that I think has turned her crank. So I was wondering if this is something that would be appropriate to appoint her to.
Through to staff, when's the date they need that appointment by?
They were hoping to get that this week. The first meeting is October the 19th, so I'm sure that it can wait till the beginning of next
Well,
week. if
just
need
a
be.
thought.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable proposing a council member that's not at the table
Okay.
be nominated and sent to a committee that there may not be scheduling for, what have you. I would suggest that if council wants to consider that we refer this to the next meeting. Or we can appoint someone else who might be willing to. Next meeting's the 19th, which is ironic because then we won't be able to have a representative attend that meeting. Because they scheduled it on our council night. They really want us to be there, though. They're pushing us to make a decision today. No, okay, Councillor Patterson.
I would like to nominate Councillor Makai.
Okay. So how does this work through the staff? Usually volunteers come forward and then we have a nominator and a seconder. So this would be basically you're making the motion that council appoint Councillor Makai to serve as liaison. And do we have a seconder for the motion? Okay. Councillor Stevens.
I didn't want to cause a runoff or anything or a 3-way race. I was interested in doing
No,
this
I know.
myself.
I was going to
So-
say it would be. We have a
uh,
couple of parents in here, either with school. Well, 3. One that isn't at the table this evening, and we have yourself and myself. But he's going to be out of there before any of this takes effect. Yours won't, and yours will be just coming into school. So, that was my default thought, was that we all have engagement with the school district on this through our roles on council. But that if we wanted a council liaison, that maybe it would be a parent that's living the school dream, aka/nightmare, depending on what the day may be. We do have a mover and a seconder for Councillor Makai. If you wanted to put yourself forward, we could, I don't know how we would do that. Ms. Smith?
There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, so you'd have to defeat it. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome to.
And I've given it some thought, actually, because I looked at it and I, of course, having lots of background and experience with the school district, it's kind of second nature to me having those conversations. Different side to have the conversation from, though, so very interesting. My thinking on it was, to be honest, I wonder if there is an advantage in a person in my position doing it, or someone who's not connected with the school system, just because less perhaps investment in terms of personal thoughts, and perhaps able to be impartial. And the other piece of it is it's simply a liaison role, so bringing back information both ways, I believe, would be the position. So I could be wrong on that, but just a thought.
Thank you. It is a liaison role according to what's been requested, but having participated in those discussions in the past, it's highly involved. There's workshopping and a lot of investment and time, generally speaking, but this is a council role, so obviously it may be different than experienced when I was not on council. I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Councillor Stevens opposed, and Virtanen opposed, and Stone opposed, so it's a tie. So the motion is defeated. So to resume the discussion then, I actually felt quite the opposite, that too close to the school system would be too much information. It's just like they say, you don't want an engineer sitting in the mayor's chair, that you need to be a generalist, not somebody who's got deep knowledge in specifics. I was hoping to have somebody that experiences it as a parent. I know Councillor Virtanen will be participating as union president, I believe, but I'll put it over to you to speak to it.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I went back and forth too, because of course right away I thought of you actually, and
Yeah,
thought of
so did
Amanda
I.
and everything else, and just the more I thought about it, I think I started leaning towards somebody who doesn't have that connection, that real, totally, but you have a connection with, obviously with your children, and so the more I thought of it, yeah, I was never gonna put my name forward for this. I was asked to be a part of it, as committee president, so I will be on this committee, but from that role, not from this table. So, yeah, no, I thought, like I said, I thought you were great, I thought Amanda was great too, but after I put thought onto it, it might be a good, I think I just felt that it would be good to have somebody with less history with the district.
Thank you. So I'm assuming Councillor Stevens, you're going to try and put your name forward?
I had no idea there'd be such a competition, but I'm interested in it, certainly. Like, I do have.
Well, if I had my way, it wouldn't have been on the agenda. I would have just appointed somebody.
Well, we could just toss it. But no, I am definitely interested. And if it pleases council, I'm happy to do it. Now, you've made me think it's a lot more time than I envisioned, but I'm up for it. So.
So you're moving that you be appointed.
That's as lame as that sounds.
Second it.
I don't feel comfortable doing that, but if someone would.
So that's been moved by Councillor Virtanen. Do we have a seconder? Okay, so now it's seconded. So we can go on a tie again, and then we'll kick it to the next meeting. All those in favor? And opposed? Well, I was going to vote against it just for fun, but the motion carries. So that would be Councillor Stevens is appointed.
Thank you.
Moving on, the late item. So that was the addendum that we adopted when the agenda was adopted. And the recommendation is to amend the agenda to add the oh, never mind. That was the note for me.
Mayor Stone, just before you read that, I'm wondering if, just hearing your conversation prior, if the 6 o'clock start time isn't acceptable, you can insert whatever time you want. We just, in the past, have started our public hearings at 6 p.m. just so that we can get through council business following.
No, and that's fine. Like I said, for a one-off, it was just if we're going to start scheduling meetings that early on the regular, then we will run into those one-offs where members may not be able to attend, or community members, or council members. So the recommendation for 10.2 is that subject to first, second readings being given to bylaw numbers 2087 and 2088 as recommended in item 6.1 of the agenda. Council, number 1, cancel the regular council meeting scheduled for 7 p.m. on November 2nd, 2021. Number 2, schedule a special council meeting and public hearing to be held by electronic means beginning at 6 p.m. on November 2nd, 2021. And just for council's information, section 2.3 of council procedure bylaw number 1666 permits council by resolution to cancel a regular meeting provided that 2 consecutive meetings are not canceled. That moved by Councillor Vertanen, seconded by Councillor Stevens. Any discussion? Councillor Johnson, then Stevens. Challenges with holding an in-person public hearing with all the masking regulations and limitations on capacities, that we're still having challenges accommodating in-person public hearings.
Okay, but how does this change that then?
The motion says cancel the regular meeting, schedule a special meeting at 6 p.m. by electronic means.
Okay. So we're gonna be doing a public hearing at 6.
And then regular council to follow approximately 7-ish.
Does it say that?
Well, it's always immediately following the regular, the public hearing.
says
It doesn't need
we're
to say that.
canceling the meeting, period.
No, and it says a skip special meeting and public hearing. If you read the actual writing, a special meeting and public hearing be scheduled at 6 p.m.
Then why would the regular meeting be a special council?
Do you want to explain it to him, Ms. Smith?
Yes, right now, through the mayor, we are only permitted to have electronic meetings if they are special meetings, because our procedure bylaw is not yet amended. So that means we have to cancel the regular meeting and turn it into a special meeting. And so it will be a special meeting with a public hearing, and then we'll just it will be a special meeting and continue on with council's regular business, where it's just called a special meeting.
So we can accommodate the public.
So that we go electronically, so
Yeah.
I'm here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Oh, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. So, regular process in terms of neighbors notified, it's the standard radius from this property, but it's a big property, so we're gonna have a lot of people notified about it, and it's a good amount of time to, November 2nd is not so far away. It's a good amount of time to advertise it, so I feel confident, and we're seasoned pros now at online public hearings, so.
Well, after today, I've forgotten all of it, so.
I know, but I think it's, so I get it, it's out of necessity, so I'm comfortable doing this, and if it was the first one we were holding, maybe a different story, but it's not, so, thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, I guess just a question. If it's online, but we're allowed to meet here, would we still meet here but have the public?
No, because we can't technologically accommodate 7, 8, 10 Zoom connections over one internet connection.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that the appropriate answer, Ms. Smith?
Yes, that is the appropriate answer. I just wanted to add that now under the new legislation, we are required to have a staff member here so that the public, if they are not able to participate electronically, can come here and see and hear the meeting and participate.
Joined by Zoom from our council chambers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Smith, does that take us to our end of our agenda? So that takes us to council's question period. You're not a citizen yet, you can't ask us questions. You don't retire till December 31st.
Mayor Stone, there's no questions on the information line, but I just, we did have a question asking about the live stream, so just wanted to let everyone know that we are recording this, and we'll have it on our website tomorrow.
Yeah, we got so good at streaming Zoom, we broke our streaming system for in here, so we're not streaming live, but we will upload the meeting immediately following, and tomorrow all of the agenda items will be notated as we usually do, and it will be available online. To our one person in the gallery, did you want to ask a question? You're welcome to take the podium. No, thank you. Okay. Well, thank you for attending. You're a brave soldier, and props to that. It made us feel like we did this for a reason. So I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Stevens, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All those in favor? Nobody's opposed, and we are adjourned. Thank you for coming this evening, and thanks to those who may watch online later.